Good morning, everyone. Could I invite you to take your seats, please? This is just a wonderful day, a wonderful start of the week to have you all here with us. And I would like to start by thanking all of the participants who all of you have come from afar, from different continents, from different places. So really, just a special thanks to all of you for traveling all the way here to be with us here in Ottawa. We have organized above zero temperatures for you today. We have managed to get some sun out, so please, we're very pleased to have you with us today. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Muntasser Kamal, and I'm the program leader for the Maternal and Child Health Program, which is the program housing the Center of Excellence for CRVS Systems here in IDRC. Before I hand it over to our president of IDRC to formally open the meeting, I have a few housekeeping announcements to make, so please bear with me for just a couple of minutes. First is that we do have interpretation today. So please make sure that you speak in the mics, whether you're asking a question or you're obviously speaking from the floor. Please make sure you're using the mics for the benefit of interpretation to be captured by interpretation. Also, today, the proceedings of today are webcast, so other colleagues and professionals interested in this area can have access to the proceedings of this meeting who are not able to be with us today. So please, I'll encourage all the speakers and the sessions to be on time, because people have registered online for a specific time slot for the sessions. So we need to start the sessions on time and end on time. So I thank you all for respecting that. The event is also, it is recorded because, as I said, it's webcast, so the proceedings will be recorded and will be available afterwards. So we hope this constitutes no issue or problem for anyone in this meeting. Also, I want to say that the outcomes of this meeting are not only going to be important for those who are present here today or those who are going to be who are going to join us online, but it's also going to be important for two other, or shared in two other important fora. One is tomorrow we start, there's a conference we're hosting also on innovation in CRVS, and the proceedings of today's meetings will be presented on day 2 of this conference. And then the second venue where this is the outcome of today will be presented is next week at the UN Statistics Commission. So this would be these are really important venues to share with the rest of the CRVS community the important outcomes from today's meetings. I'll be back with some further housekeeping announcements afterwards. But for now, without further ado, I would like to welcome the president of IDRC, Jean Lebel, to come to the podium. And before you start, maybe, John, if you could be here for just a second as I introduce you. I don't want to be late. You're not late. I'm the one who's late. So Jean Lebel is the president of IDRC, and as he leads IDRC's contributions to Canada's development, foreign policy, and global innovation efforts. He is responsible for significant funding partnerships with Canadian and foreign governments, philanthropic organizations, and the private sector. He's previously served as the Vice President of Program Partnership Branch here at IDRC, where he oversaw all of IDRC programming. And then previously, he was a Director for Agriculture and Environment also here at IDRC. And he reminded us this morning, that he has been here at IDRC for 21 years. So he's a great historian of IDRC as well, I think. Jean holds a PhD in Environmental Sciences from l'Université du Québec à Montréal and an MSACA in Occupational Health Sciences from McGill University. Please welcome Jean Lebel.
Thank you. Thank you, Montessa, and good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tout le monde. I will be speaking in both official language of Canada, French and English. So if you want to have yourself headsets, if you didn't get one already, they are available outside of the room. Good morning also to the people on the web. I'm quite pleased speaking standing up because I have this story from my years when I was conducting my research in the Amazon, where I came back from the Amazon in the afternoon, and I was teaching at 6 at the universities. And yesterday morning, I came back from India, after a full week there. So I'm still a bit jet lagged. I could have done my grocery this morning at 2, as I was fully awake, opening the fridge, and there was much things. And the storyline here is that when I came back from the Amazon, I was giving my course. And, I was really jet lagged, and I start to feel, a little bit tired. So I sat behind the table, and continued to give my lecture to my student. And don't ask me how long it was, but it was long enough to get noted by the classroom. I close my eye, and I start knocking like this. And there's one gentleman at the back of the classroom that says, I've been at university for 3 years, and I've been in so many boring courses that I fell asleep, but it's the first time I'm going to one where it's the professor that fall asleep. So speaking standing up is much easier for me and will prevent my jet lag to appear, hopefully. So good morning, Parliamentary Secretary Caesar-Chavannes, who is a good friend of IDRC, Dr. Akhtar, with whom I had the pleasure of having breakfast earlier, and welcome all to the International Development Research Center, IDRC. You are at home over here. It is a true pleasure for me to join you to launch this pioneering discussion on civil registration and vital statistic, or CRVS, and link it to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal Agenda, and to bring the gender perspective into it, which is critical for us here in Canada. It's make this conference natural for IDRC, but it makes this conference natural for all of you. We are proud to host the Center of Excellence for CRVS, which is a partnership with Global Affairs Canada and supports the work of the Global Financing Facility. The Center of Excellence serves as a global knowledge hub on CRVS system, collaborating with organizations and experts to facilitate access to information and expertise. The Center of Excellence does this through a consistent partnership approach. It is helping improve global, regional, and country-level policy and practices for a stronger CRVS system. Much of this work is on specific technical CRVS issues, such as improving tools, generating research evidence, and promoting global good practices. So CRVS systems are the first part. Gender, as I said earlier, is the second part. Le CRDI s'emploie à appuyer l'égalité et l'équité.
IDRC employs equity, gender equity, and considers this as a priority, and it supports programs and policies that aim to improve the quality of life of women, girls, and other vulnerable groups in the world. Our commitment is reinforced by the Feminist Assistance Program of the federal government. Actually, this policy supports enabling political and economic enabling of women, and gender equality is a priority for all. Furthermore, it confirms the commitment of Canada to support the objectives of sustainable development. Objective number 5, as you know, gender equality and enabling girls and women, is used as a starting point for international assistance in Canada. This allows Canada to be a leader in this area and to really focus its action in the world.
With you to reinforce a few messages, namely why we are all here, or I think we are all here, how we will accomplish our goals, and what we're missing, where the gaps are that we can work together to fill. And they don't mean to be exclusive. There are probably many that you will identify during the next day. First, the why. The Center of Excellence has convened this meeting on gender and CRVS to discuss the current status of the field, evaluate opportunity and challenges, and identify promising avenues that could help strengthen the CRVS system to capture the vital events of women, girls, and other vulnerable populations. This work is crucial for the impact it can have on lives worldwide, and also for the role CRVS system will have towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda goals and on gender equality. If we are to effectively monitor progress towards these goals, it is critical that data be reliable, timely, and disaggregated at least by age and sex. Only then will data help to guide better policies and programs, particularly for the underserved and hard to reach. The urgency here is that the overwhelming majority of these underserved and hard to reach people are women and children. Cet accent mis sur les données.
This emphasis on data brings me to my second point, the way that we will accomplish our objectives having to do with women and girls enabling thanks to these CRVS system. And this will be done through civil registration. For instance, birth registration is essential for women because it is a link for the registration of other important events up to the adult age. It is a powerful tool that we find too in Article 7 in the Children Convention. Girls, women, and other vulnerable groups absolutely need a proof of age and identity to work, to have a bank account, to obtain credit, to have a business, and also to vote. Essentially, they absolutely need that to be compared and heard. Just think how essential these documents are for gender equity. Registration of marriages will help women ensure their succession right in case the husband dies. As for the divorce, it makes it easier to obtain a pension or benefits for women.
Is on what we're missing. There remain critical data gaps and the depth of resources on CRVS and gender. Evidence suggests that the deaths of women and girls are less likely to be registered than those of men. If the deaths of women and girls are not registered, the causes of their death are invisible, which compromise the ability of government and decision makers to plan effective programs to prevent future death. This happens even in countries with relatively strong systems. So it is not only a matter of technical know-how. It is also a matter of not treating women and girls as second-class citizens. Our work aims to make every woman, every girl, and every child count. Taken together, we see that gender inequality in civil registration vital statistics often start at birth and persist straight through death. These gaps must be addressed, must be closed, and this inequality must be addressed. Si toutes les personnes dans cette
If everyone here work together, we will make considerable progress. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome the representatives, the high-level representatives of the United Nations system, of the European Commission, and the World Bank, as well as other distinguished guests here. We're anxious to learn some teachings from your experiences and listen to you today. This will help us make this program move ahead. In order for our people here today work well, we will gain an excellent experience from our capacity and collective influence.
Thank Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia, better known under the term of UNESCAP, Asia and the Pacific, for being with us today. It is an honor and a significant gesture of support for the topics to be discussed at the conference, Doctor. It is now also my pleasure to introduce Selena Caesar-Chavannes, who is Canada's Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Development and La Francophonie, and she doesn't want to be late also. Mr. Caesar-Chavannes holds a Bachelor of Science from the University of Toronto, an MBA in Healthcare Management from the University of Phoenix, and an Executive MBA from the Rotman School of Management in Toronto. She was named the Toronto Board of Trade's Business Entrepreneur of the Year in 2012. In 2007, she received the Black Business and Professional Association Harry Jerome Young Entrepreneur Award. Following her election to Parliament as the candidate that was selected by the population in Whitby, in the suburbs of Toronto, where my girls play a lot of hockey. I know all the arena in Whitby. Following her election, so in 2015, Mrs. Caesar-Chavannes served as Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister until January 2017, when she was appointed to her current role as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Development and La Francophonie. She is a long-term friend of IDRC, and she knows research and she understands it because that was she was doing prior to becoming a Member of Parliament. Last year, she was awarded the Canadian Alliance on Mental Illness and Mental Health Champion of Mental Health Parliamentarian Award. And today, it's really an honor and a privilege that she found time to join us. So please welcome her with me at the podium for delivering these remarks today. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a very good meeting.
Thank you so much, John, for that very beautiful introduction. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and to those watching over the web, good morning. It's an honor to be here on behalf of the Honorable Marie-Claude Bibeau, the Minister of International Development et la Francophonie, to discuss the importance of civil registration and vital statistics to gender equality. I want to thank the IDRC Center of Excellence for hosting this very important event. A couple months ago, I was in my riding of Whitby at Ormiston Public School, and the grade 7 and 8 students had this wonderful human rights fair at that very young age. And they were quite seized with the notion that the UN Declaration of Human Rights tells us that everyone is born with equal dignity and rights. It states that a person has a right to basic housing and medical care, education, work, security, property, and nationality. But what they noted, and the Declaration doesn't say, is that you can only have those rights with proper legal documentation. So no paper, no rights. And so that's why we're here today. Standing up and being counted is the foundation for all rights and freedoms. Your birth, death, cause of death, marriage, divorce, those are the things that form your legal identity. This record of your life, of your existence, also forms for the basis of action because it begs the question, now that you know that I'm here, what can be done to help me get a good start, a good healthy start in life, to keep me safe, to provide me with equal opportunity so I could reach my full potential and contribute to my community and my country. Those are the goals of the 2030 Agenda and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But sustainable development cannot happen unless every person can participate in every aspect of society. That is why SDG 16 refers specifically to providing legal identity for all, including birth registration. Currently, only 25% of the world's population lives in countries where more than 90% of births and deaths are registered. Most of these countries are high income. Cela va bien au-delà de la bureaucratie.
This goes much more. This is much more related to what we have in terms of access officially. But what does this mean? If your birth is not registered and you don't have the official documents that are necessary, that means that you cannot receive essential services. You cannot go to school. You cannot receive health care services. You can't vote. You can't open a bank account or obtain services from a financial institution. You cannot either benefit from assistance, social assistance, because the door will be closed. You may not be able to fulfill your potential. Marginalized groups, such as women and girls, are devastating, especially when we want to advance their rights and promote legality. So girls and women are more in danger of being forced to marry young, to be victims of sexual violence or gender-based violence, and also to die early. In certain countries, women cannot inherit property or register their children, or documents that prove a marriage or a divorce. So this is also a disadvantage, and this is transmitted to their children.
International assistance policy recognizes that social and economic progress hinges on advancing gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. If you want to end poverty, empower women. If you want to build lasting peace, involve women. If you want to increase economic growth, invest in women. Canada's goal is to ensure that by 2021-2022, no less than 95% of its bilateral development assistance investments either targets or integrates gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. This means making it possible for women and girls to control their own bodies and make their own sexual and reproductive choices, to gain skills, develop confidence and self-reliance, and to speak on their own behalf. Canada believes this begins with securing women's access to the full range of sexual and reproductive health services. And so last March, Prime Minister Trudeau pledged $650 million for programs that will deliver family planning and contraceptives, increase access to safe and legal abortions and post-abortion care, provide comprehensive sexual education to boys and girls, and prevent and respond to sexual and gender-based violence. So how do CRVS systems fit into this? They fit in every single way. Without good comprehensive data, we cannot even identify, let alone eliminate, all barriers that women and girls face. Without reliable, vital statistics, we cannot develop evidence-based national policies that are gender-sensitive and responsive to the needs of women and girls. And without accurate assessments of baseline data, it is impossible to measure our progress towards SDGs in any meaningful way. So while the term civil registration and vital statistics sounds bureaucratic, we all know that it is really an important starting point for the development of one of the most important things that we can do for all people, including women and girls. The federal government has also supported the establishment of the Center of Excellence for Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Systems housed here at IDRC. As you know, this esteemed center serves as a global resource hub for all things CRVS and works closely with the global financing facilities to support high-burden countries, including fragile states, develop and implement national CRVS strategies. Canada also provides funding to UN partners like UNESCAP to strengthen CRVS systems at the national and regional level. Last but not least, at the 2017 Family Planning Summit, Canada became a proud signatory to the Global Adolescence Data Statement. This is part of our commitment to address the global gap in adolescent sexual and reproductive health and rights. Ladies and gentlemen, to truly ensure that women and girls are not left behind, we need data collection methods that can unmask all gender biases. I look forward to working with you and all partners to achieve this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Parliamentary Secretary. And thank you for the leadership you are displaying on this file, numbers of other files, and please carry our words to the Prime Minister for thanking him for the leadership he's showing on the gender agenda and on this one in particular. I would like now to introduce Dr. Shamshad Akhtar. As I mentioned earlier, she's the Undersecretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Secretary of UNESCAP. She served as the coordinator of the 5 United Nations Regional Commission. She led the UN-wide coordination of the work on the post-2015 development agenda, and prior to joining the UN, Dr. Akhtar served as governor of the Central Bank of Pakistan, as well as a governor of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. On behalf of IDRC and all of us here at the conference, thank you for joining us and for sharing your experience. Pleasure to invite you and welcome you at the podium. Dr. Akhtar.
President of IDRC, Madam Parliamentarian Secretary, and it's a real pleasure to get to know both of you and distinguished delegates. It's great to be back to Canada. I've come after a long time. But this is my first visit to IDRC, even though I may have read a lot of what IDRC has published. We all take pride in the work of IDRC. I have to say one of the motivations for coming out to Canada is also the leadership of Canada. I was fascinated by reading the speech of Prime Minister Trudeau. It was very impressive with all the it's very unusual for leaders to come with such basic facts. So at World Economic Forum, I think I would classify his speech was very real and very substantive. So we are very proud that Canada is also affiliated with the United Nations UNESCAP. It's for the first time that I have come since I took over at UNESCAP. So it's a pleasure to be here in Ottawa, even though during the cold part. I'd much rather come in nicer weather, because I do see you have a lot of green here. And I have come when I was in different capacities. It's beautiful, even though a bit lonely from the rest of the world. So it's a pleasure to address this high-level panel on gender, civil registration, and vital statistics. And I will use CRVS for interest of brevity. I'll talk a little bit about what has been taught about the significance of CRVS, but then zero in on what is happening in Asia Pacific, and then just rope in a little bit of how we interface on this subject as UNESCAP. I think from a United Nations standpoint, effective CRVS systems help protect simply people's human rights. I have to tell you that I come from rural Sindh of Pakistan. Although I was born in a proper city, but it was some time before I was able to get my birth registration certificate. And that is when we were processing something. I think I had to move on from one to another, that I went to my father and I said, where is my birth certificate? So he said, interesting, I don't have it on me, but you're absolutely right. We need to have it. So I'm just narrating how important it is when you get into the work stream that you need to have it on hand. So then we went through a process to get hold of it, and thank God the accounts were there in Hyderabad city of Pakistan, where I was born. So I wanted to narrate this because it's a real issue, and it was after several years of my birth that I actually saw my birth registration certificate. So I think CRVS endorsed citizens, as has been pointed out, with legal identity, enabling them to vote, prove land ownership, which is very important in the regions we come from, claim inheritance, as has been talked about, and have recourse to the judicial system. We have had a very famous lawyer of Pakistan who just died, unfortunately. And she obviously recognized the significance of it, and she's a great colleague and a friend of mine. And I think she's a human rights activist, and she clearly was telling me that without getting proper CRVS accounts, it's very hard for us to operate. Okay, so claim inheritance and have recourse to judicial system, difficult. Effective CRVS systems are bulwarks against discrimination. They help support access to essential public services, to healthcare and education, which has been talked about. So if you want to help people to live wealthier, healthier, and happier lives, improvements to CRVS systems must be a priority. And for us now, they are a prerequisite to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, an agenda which, as we know, explicitly includes a target on birth registration, Goal 16, and specifies universal birth and death registration as central to any effective national statistical system captured in Goal 17. To ensure no one is left behind, we must know that they do exist and when they don't exist. So with this, since a lot has been said about the virtues of CVRS, let me now turn to the status of CRVS system in Asia Pacific. Many CRVS systems in Asia and the Pacific need fundamental overhaul. Only a handful of countries have universal registration within 1 year of after birth, meaning key development indicators on infant and child mortality cannot be accurately calculated. Late registrations are a particularly acute problem. In Bangladesh and Nepal, 4-year-old children are twice as likely to be registered than infants. Several Central Asian countries, including Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, also experience problems with delayed registrations in hard-to-reach areas. The situation is especially challenging in the Pacific and South Asia, with an estimated birth registration rate of 50% for children under 5, and with some countries reporting rates as low as 30%. The South Asian figure is the second lowest of any region in the world after Sub-Saharan Africa, 56%. producing accurate sex disaggregated mortality statistics is a challenging task for many countries in our region, where all too many often the data either does not exist or it's unreliable. Only 11 of the 37 reporting countries that we examined have set targets for 2024 to achieve 100% completeness of death registrations and causes of death certifications. Many countries rely primarily on household surveys to establish causes of death. And anybody who's worked on household surveys knows how complicated getting information out of it is, and also it's not clear how accurate it is. This means data is often outdated and cannot be disaggregated by subgroups or geographical areas. Limited technical capacity, lack of integration and coordination within government, and barriers to electronic data inter-exchange also hinder effective CRVS systems. Mobilizing adequate financial resources to ensure accurate databases are maintained is clearly essential, but not necessarily happening. So let me now turn to an important topic which you all are deliberating, importance of integrating gender issues in CRVS. CRVS systems are particularly important if we are to achieve gender equality, of course. For effective policy to reach those furthest behind, of which women and girls are a majority, we need reliable data disaggregated by age and sex. But gender inequality in CRVS often starts at birth, continue in marriage, as was said by Her Excellency, and old age, and persist into death. Let me give you just a few examples of how important CRVS can be. First, gender-biased legal frameworks make it harder for women to register births. In countries such as Nepal or Bhutan, births cannot be registered without the father or grandfather's name. Updating legal frameworks could make a huge contribution to improving registration rates. A second point is important to recognize is the stigma surrounding births outside wedlock leads to misreporting. Older relatives of the mother, often beyond usual reproductive age, register children as their own, or children may not be registered at all. This prevents a clear picture of fertility patterns which would help shape the requisite policy interventions. A third point is CRVS systems and registration are important to prevent child marriages. Birth and marriage registrations are key instruments to prove the ineligibility for marriage of an underage girl, a very important issue in our region. Fourth, improved marriage and divorce registration can also reduce inequality faced by adult women. For instance, a marriage certificate provides women with evidence to substantiate a claim on an inheritance in the event of a spouse's death. A fifth example that I'd like to mention is the female deaths are consistently underreported. Increasing death registrations could support government's ability to identify sex-differentiated causes of death and develop targeted policies to mitigate them. So, what are we doing? There are some promising initiatives from around the region to talk about. There's no doubt challenges are considerable, but so are the efforts of many Asia-Pacific countries to strengthen their CRVS systems. And my eyes were open when we had our ministerial event at CRVS. I saw the commitment, I saw the knowledge there, I saw that everybody was talking about having sustainable CRVS systems. So let me just mention few of the points from a very large region. ASEAN, the most developed, is pursuing an initiative to promote universal birth registration, prevent statelessness, and improve the recognition of basic rights, including for vulnerable groups such as asylum seekers and refugees. National legal frameworks are being reviewed to ensure registration and citizenship is equally accessible, independent of gender, in 8 countries in Southeast Asia. Action in more developed environment in the Republic of Korea highlights how vital statistics based on civil registration can be used to inform a debate and encourage change. In the 1990s, the national sex ratio at birth reached a record high. 116 males were being born to 100 females due to sex-selective abortions. A real problem, but they were able to track it. A public outcry ensued. Policies were adjusted, and the trend has been reversed over the past 10 years. That's the power of CVRS. At a regional level, in 2014, countries declared the Asia-Pacific Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Decade 2015 to 2024. Several of you, I believe, were present there, and I'm pleased to see the momentum has been maintained, and I really salute the Center of Excellence here for really focused efforts in this endeavor. By 2024, our ambition is to achieve universal registration of births, deaths, and other vital events, provide all people with legal proof of identity, and use these registration records to produce and openly share accurate, complete, and timely vital statistics. The Regional Action Framework on CRVS in Asia and the Pacific is now being reflected in global initiatives as well as in national development plans. Most countries in our region are establishing national CRVS coordination mechanisms, assessing the current systems, and establishing comprehensive and multi-sectoral strategies for improvements. Countries have also set ambitious targets for improving birth and death registration during the CRVS decade. For registration of children under 5, Bangladesh stood at 25% in 2014, but has set a target of 100% by 2024. For Myanmar, the 2014 baseline was 26%, and the 2024 target is 90%. UNESCAP is currently supporting countries to develop vital statistics reports based on civil registration records for the very first time. These reports provide a valuable source of data on fertility, maternal mortality, and other key gender indicators, which in any case we have to support through our statistical endeavors, but also through the development efforts as a part of the overall SDG architecture. The commitments made in Asia and Pacific place the region in a unique position because these are intergovernmental commitments with countries and partners working together towards agreed goals with a framework for monitoring progress. Asia and the Pacific must no longer be a region where we have to turn to ad hoc surveys as the primary source of critical development information. Rather, we must build the systems which allow us to collect and collate timely data for real statistics. We not only count on the government, but we count on the civil society, private sector, other producers and users of statistics to help us out in these deliberations. So let me conclude this is, of course, our focus. We count on good data sets, but good data sets are not just about numbers. They are about changing policies and mindsets to get every woman and girl in the picture. Invisible is the right word. Moving to visibility is the right direction. We have to give them a legal identity. We have to ensure they understand what their human rights are and a voice. Working together, we can build greater political support and share best practices on CRVS systems innovation. We have a historic opportunity to make a major contribution to gender equality by improving CRVS and ensuring everyone counts. That is an opportunity which together we must seize. And this is the reason why I'm here in IDRC. Look forward to our partnership with the Center of Excellence. Thank you, Mr. President, for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akhtar. Next, I would like to introduce to you Jean-Louis Ville. Mr. Ville is head of Unit Gender Equality, Human Rights and Democratic Governance at the European Commission in the Directorate General for Development and Cooperation, or better known probably under the name of DevCo. C'est avec grand plaisir que je cède maintenant la parole à Monsieur Ville.
It's with great pleasure that I give him the floor. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Now, first of all, I'm quite honored to be part of this distinguished panel. And I have a few challenges to manage, which is time, because when I start speaking, most of the time, you need to stop me. Second, I have to manage this presentation clicker. And third, I was told that I can change languages during my speech, which is fine, but might be a challenge for the interpreters. So I'll try to do my best to play with all this. First of all, as I said, it's quite an honor to be present with you. Although the EU is, it's said here, a big donor, I would say a donor, an important donor in the field of civil registration, we are just starting to join the thinking circles of advancing identification. So I'm quite humble here. I do not pretend to know. I will try to explain what and why we do it. EU is a constant supporter of civil registration, and we take seriously the commitment to SDG 16.9. Our development vision, and I think I should click here somewhere to see if it happens. I'm here. Right. So this is where I should be. Oh, yeah. Sorry. So what is guiding us was mentioned by the Secretary of the UN Commission is the principle of leaving no one behind. And I think what my predecessor speakers have brilliantly explained is that we clearly have to encompass everyone if we want to achieve the SDG by 2030. So what is guiding us is to have a comprehensive civil registration, supporting systems that have the capacity to register, as it was already illustrated, every birth, follow every vital statistics, provide identification at maturity and record marriage, divorce, death declaration. Everyone is involved, women, girls, obviously, but also children, minorities, disabled, displaced persons, and we definitely need to address the various facets of discrimination faced by vulnerable people and marginalized groups. As I think you said, President, or Madam Secretary Assistant, no paper, no existence, no right. And this is, of course, the core of everything we believe in the Union. So this is overall a matter of good governance to inform better policies for the benefit of all citizens. Alors, je vais changer.
So I'll switch languages. I'll leave the presentation in English. I don't have an French version anyway, so maybe you can find some explanation through this. So for us, identification is absolutely necessary for everything that is related to development. So we have two frameworks for this. One, the consensus, European Consensus for Development that was adopted last year. That includes our member states. We have 28 for the time being. It'll be 27 tomorrow. And this is what we proposed. This is what was adopted. That is to work on an approach through rights, recognizing gender and the equality of the sexes as a fundamental right that has to be found throughout our policies and programs, and also to ensure that nobody is forgotten, whatever their gender, their ethnic origin is, or their belonging to a group or another. So it's essential. Universality is the basic principle. The second policy document that frames our activity is the Gender Action Plan that has been in existence since 2016. This framework is to ensure gender equality throughout our policies. So there are a lot of things within this plan because we'd have to be here for 3 days. But what I can tell you today is that there are two objectives that are perfectly connected to this, and that is guaranteeing equal access to women, children, and girls, especially in education, that is to access the education establishments, and also to eliminate discrimination based on gender, and the other activity that is rather closely related to this, that is ensuring that rights and the opportunity for women to participate in politics and the development of governance and policy development. So this translates to the recognition of political rights, but not only the right to vote, but also to run for politics or taking part in government activities. So ensuring that the birth of girls be registered as soon as possible. This is a basic principle for the implementation of our policies. If we don't have statistics, as was said earlier, if we don't have reliable statistics, we cannot know how many people would benefit from education or would need health care and everything that's related. So this is logical.
De traduire donc tout ça à travers nos programmes. Alors, qu'est-ce que nous essayons de faire?
This is essential. So what are we trying to do? What does guide our activity in terms of registration? We believe that the Registration of vital statistics is a priority issue. It is not only, as often the case, a byproduct or sub-objective of another project. Personally, I've been working in this unit for 7 years. I've seen many projects for electoral system to prepare the elections in a partner country and just helping them. So what do we do then? The first observation is that the electoral lists are not up to date. But 5 years ago, we had done something on this. We had drawn up lists with you, with our technologies. What happened to them? Well, nothing, but they were not updated in the past 5 years. So we deal with that in times of elections, so it's good. But as everyone knows, in that period of time, several things happen. So originally, the people of less than 18 were not registered because they're not entitled to vote. So this whole part is excluded. So it's kind of a black hole from 0 to 18. In 18 to 65 is okay. So we're very often dependent on the urgency of the thing. And since we are doing the census for the election, we could try to widening up, to broaden it, to do more good, but it's an investment that we make and that we repeat. So we tend to always wait for the urgency to solve such an important problem because democracy is important and needs to be supported, but we redo that work on a cycle basis.
Peut-être un peu trop sur cet exemple.
Maybe I'm insisting too much on this example, but I've seen so many cases like that the story is repeating itself and we're doing the same mistake all the time.
I think we also need to stop working in silos on this topic. What is difficult for us as a donor is to find partners, actors that will cover all aspects of the civil registration: birth, identification, support for population registers, death declaration. We don't have any one actor. We have, let's say, doctors on one hand, administration when it comes to elections on others, but no one has the capacity until now to build a comprehensive system, technically speaking, professionally speaking. This is an issue which we are grappling with because we are tackling specific issues, but we are not considering it as a whole, or we have difficulty to find a partner to have it as a whole. So if we want to support governments to be able to manage all the steps, it's not only to be competent on birth registration is important, but it's also to have all elements of it. Delivering an ID card with a biometric technology is fine. It's trendy, but it's only part of it. It's not the global picture. This conference is about innovation, and we are committed to use innovation. I think since 2016, we have guidelines on how to promote digitalization and the use of ICT in all technologies in our projects. This is, of course, very new because I'm not a specialist on digitalization. My age speaks for itself. And you see how bad I am with a clicker. But definitely there are possibilities and opportunities that one might use and must use to find different ways to attack and to tackle these issues. So also, because when we're speaking about remote areas, this is where we should look at. Now, thank you, Monsieur le Président, for making me a and I should stop quickly. However, what is important also, technology does not replace a competent administration. So the myth that the science will overcome the political issues is a myth, and that we know from elections. That we have tried several times. When we have a big political issue in a country, bringing in biometric registration does not solve that political problem. And I think this should also be kept in mind when we are discussing and envisaging solutions. Now, shortly, because we are close to the end, what we can do, and we continue to do, as you see here, we are now active mainly in sub-Saharan Africa on specific civil registration and civil registration projects, mainly because of the migration process, let's face it, mainly because security reasons are behind that, mainly because we want to identify possible migrants. So in a way, it's perhaps, again, not the best answer, but it's a good thing because we're investing with these governments on a decent and comprehensive system of civil registration. So, what is to conclude? We strongly believe that gender aspects in EU is important when we do these kind of projects, and again. We should be conscious because we have a plan, it's because we are not up to the top. Gender considerations are certainly in not of case disregarded or side regarded. So we do have progress to do in that respect. This is our commitment, and this is why I'm more than happy to participate to this conference. Thank you for being patient with me, and I wish you all of us an excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean-Louis, et au revoir, Madame la Secrétaire.
And goodbye, Parliamentary Secretary, who has other things to be doing today in Parliament.
Is Mrs. Josie Perez. Mrs. Perez is Assistant Secretary and Deputy National Statistician with the Censuses and Technical Coordination of the Office of the Philippine Statistical Authority, which I guess is called the PSA in the Philippines, yes. Mrs. Perez, thank you for being here and for sharing your insight with us. You will conclude this morning with your presentation. Welcome.
Sorry. I'm really nervous because my file went out. Okay, so good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Philippine Statistics Authority and our national statistician, Dr. Lisa Grace Versales, I would like to thank the Center of Excellence for inviting us. I think the Philippines, the only Asian countries represented here. But maybe because of our civil registration system in the Philippines, that's the reason why we were invited in this forum. So it is really a very we are deeply honored and delighted to be part of this workshop or this forum. And actually, the initiation of the court proceedings and the preparation of the record books of births, deaths, and marriages in the Philippines during the time of the Spanish era in 1898 led to the establishment of the civil registration system in the Philippines. Okay. Now, and also it became, this civil registration system later became successful and it was strengthened. And then it became a blessing to most of the Filipinos. It is a blessing and great help to most of the Filipinos because who would think during that time that Filipinos would migrate as overseas workers in many countries. And because of this, the vital documents, the civil registry documents, are important documents that most Filipinos need in getting out of the country. Okay. So nowadays, we have millions of Filipinos, especially women and children, relying on PSA to get their birth and marriage documents for them to acquire passports, insurance, entry to basic education, etc. Actually, PSA is more famous, rather known as the source of civil registration documents than producer of statistics. Okay. Actually, the PSA is just releasing a copy of the civil registration documents for those Filipinos asking such documents. But we are not involved in the registration of these vital documents. So therefore, we face a lot of problems, a lot of issues on civil registration documents. In the past, it was we had a low registration rate for births, deaths, and marriages. But because of our great partnership with the local governments, okay, with the local government units, we were able to do some activities that reach even the far-flung barangays to reach the households in order for them to register the births of their sons, daughters, and even themselves. The documents, their birth documents. Okay. So nowadays we have, to date we have around 98% of birth registration and about 90% of marriage registration. Unfortunately, the death registration is only around between 88%. Maybe because there are some tribes, specifically the Muslim tribes, do not believe they bury their dead a day after, okay, without registering the death of such a member of their families. So these are some of the problems that we are facing in the CRVS, okay. But as I have told you, we have a strong partnership with the local government units as well as with the international partners, in which the experiences of other countries help us a lot to improve our civil registration system. Okay. We are also planning to use the civil registration system in connecting it with the proposed national ID system for the Philippines. The bill has not yet been approved. The bill on national ID has not yet been approved, but the Congress and the Senate agree that the Philippine Statistics Authority should handle the national ID system since we have the civil registration system. But there are strong oppositions, like political opposition, okay, because of the power this national ID will bring, okay. And then another one is we need to pursue also we need to help also the local government units handling the registration. They need to be capacitated or they need to be trained in improving the registration system. Okay. So we are also right now discussing with the Senate on how we can include under the umbrella of the PSA, the local civil registrars. Okay. This might be an ambition, a big ambitious project for the PSA, but what we are thinking is not the power that it will bring us, but we want to have a strong civil registration system as well as a vital statistics system in the country. For we know that this is the civil registration documents are vital documents or legal documents. Specifically, the birth documents are legal documents for the families, okay, for them to be able to establish their identity and claim their rights, okay. So we know that in the coming days, the issues and problems may arise, but as long as there are good partnerships we have, as long as there are fora or consultations that we can attend, then we know that the civil registration system, or the CRVS, will remain strong and important means for the men, women, and children in the Philippines. And with this, I would like to end by thanking the organization, or the Center of Excellence, for having us here, for we know the information that we will learn from this meeting will be able, can be used for further development of our CRVS in my country. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Perez, for giving us the opportunity to hear from the field the enormous effort that you're making to contribute to this topic. What a tremendous way to start the day together. Thank you to our high-level guests for sharing experiences, perspective, challenges, and successes also that they have encountered. Collectively, today, your insight will contribute to set the stage for the future. Fortunately for you, this will be the last time I am in front of the podium today. So I will take this opportunity to thank all of you for your presence and your collaboration. And you are most welcome here at IDRC. But I could not, Montassar, leave the podium without telling you a story of civil registration, which is my own. And I haven't thought of this, but, you know, just to end on a little bit of a lighter note. When I was at university, I was digging in the library, and I found out through the civil registration that in my province of origin, Quebec, that is French-Canadian, 95% Roman Catholic, you know, until very recently, all the civil registration was done in church at the time of your baptism. And what do I discover is that the first Lebel born in America in 1666 or 1673 is called Jean Lebel. And then when I look at the data, because all of this has been digitalized, the registration has been made on the 23rd of January, which is my birthday. And I said to myself, you know, wow, you know, at the lab, there was a visitor statistician at the time, Guy who was working for the CNRS in France. Famous epidemiologist. So I went to Guy, you know, in my 20s, and I said, Guy, what are the odds, the probability that the first Lebel name in America is called Jean and exactly on the same birthday as I've been? Well, Jean, you know, statistic and probability has nothing to do with this. He says the only conclusion that we can draw from that story is that the sexual behavior of the Lebel haven't changed in the 400 years. None of my children were born in January. So I want to thank you all. Mantasar, I'm bringing you back to the podium to guide us in this journey to make the invisible visible. Merci beaucoup à tous. Bienvenue au CRD et passez une agréable.
So thank you very much. Thanks to the IDRC, and enjoy the rest of the day and week for some of you.